You know what I mean? I think that's a huge part because a lot of marriages nowadays, they'll get married, with sex out of wedlock, and they'll be dependent on that lust type of factor, and then it usually ends up ruining the marriage down the road. That's usually like a big part is the fact that the sex is like either you got tired of it because you already did it all before you were married, and then just the fact that you're so focused on it anyway. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Sex is originally designed for creation. You know what I mean? It's designed to have babies,
Mhm.
and now we live in a world with condoms and all these contraceptives, all these other things that
Welcome back. My name is Clelia Andrea, and I thank you so much for joining me today. I am on this mission to talk to single men who are choosing abstinence. I think it's so important to have these conversations in order to change the culture that a lot of us complain about at times. So I am here inviting people to talk about this conversation, whether it's a choice that you've personally made or something that you have a strong opinion about. And so far, I've talked to two great men. Those conversations are in my IGTV if you want to see part 1 and part 2. And today I'm going to talk with a new friend, Kelvin J. If you're a fan of hip hop, then you probably know who he is and his name and some of his music. That is awesome to listen to and to rock out. And I've had the pleasure of seeing him live, and I think I'm going to see him live again this weekend, which I'm really excited about. And not only that, but he's an awesome person who appreciates his fans and the people who support his music, which a lot of it, if not all of it, talks about God and trying to stay on the right track, which I'm a huge fan of as well. Not because I'm perfect, but because I'm trying and I'm doing my best, and we can all use the encouragement, especially in the form of music and art. That's something that we have in our daily lives. And if it can be positive messages, especially in the way that music and tunes stay with you in your head, then we definitely want to encourage having that in our atmosphere. A lot of us don't realize how much of an effect music has on us, and I actually call it your musical diet. So just like you're putting foods into your body and they yield certain results, positive or negative, the same happens with music and entertainment, anything that we absorb and take in, especially on a daily basis. So I'm going to see if Kelvin J is joining us. I'm going to send this to him, and then we'll get our conversation started. And thank you guys so much for being here. I'm really excited to have anybody care about anything I have to share, but especially when there's good intention behind the message and it's a positive message, then I definitely want to have people, partake and be involved and give me some feedback as well. The least we can do is try. That's right, Sean. You're so right. Can't even send hearts. Something's going on with IG. They won't even let me send hearts on lives. This is ridiculous. Yeah, Nick, I feel like there is something brewing up with Instagram. I was just talking to a friend yesterday who has a ton of followers and has his website on his link, and he said that he got a message from Instagram saying that they're like threatening to take down his link. This is so crazy. And I've seen people post about things that are going wrong with Instagram. I haven't been able to do a 1-minute reel yet. I have access to 15 and 30-second ones, but they haven't given me that privilege yet. And I've done all the research I can to try to find it, and the conclusion was, some people have it and some people don't, and eventually you might get it. So it's really frustrating for us who are trying to share good information and positive messages and then are getting silenced, And I know you know Nick Florin. They won't let me like anything till tomorrow. Wow. And how bold of them, right, to say like, this is what we're letting you know that you're allowed to do, and this is a date. Like they're not even hiding behind like, oh, it might be an issue. They're just being very upfront about it. The only way I can send hearts is to press and hold, which sends a burst of them. Hey, that's even cooler. I'm so sure you guys are going to get to see an awesome guy and hear some bold convictions. We can guarantee that with Kelvin. Hey, how are you?
what's going on?
I'm so excited to connect with you in this way because when I met you, we didn't really get to talk. And I know that you have some strong opinions and some strong beliefs, which I'm excited to dive into.
Oh yeah, they're very blunt, very direct, I would say.
I really appreciate that about you, because a lot of people don't go there, and you definitely cause, like, even if I don't agree with something you say or it's a new information to me, I definitely like it, and like the fact that you're sharing it and just, kind of prompting us to think and to read and to pray and all
I try to do what I can.
that. You're doing it. So guys, I introduce you to Kelvin J, one of the coolest people you'll ever meet and get to listen to. I encourage you to go follow him and follow his music and look up what he's trying to do, and what he is doing and what he has coming up. I mentioned that you're going to be in Arizona, and I'm planning on going to see you again. And my little one's excited to see you again as well.
Yeah, we got a little one in the video coming up.
Oh my gosh, that's right. That's so exciting. I have a 4-year-old. He was 3 when we saw Kelvin J in concert with some other guys, and he got on the stage and started like breakdancing. I'm like, I've never seen you do this before. It was awesome.
Happy birthday to him.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Well, take a moment to tell us about yourself to people that might not know who you are, and then why you're interested in having this conversation.
Well, I go by Kelvin J. I kind of got caught up in the whole conservative MAGA music type of realm. Switched my music from typical hood rap music to more pro God, pro country, pro conservative type music, just positive growth type music. And yeah, I'm just an overall artist. I produce music videos. I've been doing that for years. Photography. What else? Music. I just like to dabble in the arts, painting, do what I can.
That's awesome. And I love that you say that, because when we really think about it, there's so many people who say, oh, I'm not an artist, or I'm not creative. You were made by the grand designer, the grand artist, the grand creator. So of course you have that in you. And that's in fact true. When we do that is when we feel the most empowered and capable and useful and lit up. What do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, in God's image we prime, right?
Yes!
In God's image we prime. So, we have to it's a narrow road, but we wanna, stay on that path as best we can. And life is just great when you're on that path, all honesty. Whether if you're dipping into evil back and forth, whatever you're doing in your life. I think everyone who's at least attempted to go the narrow path has witnessed the positivity that can come with it,
Wow, well said. Yeah, absolutely. So, tell me your stance or opinion or thoughts on abstinence. And
abstinence?
Thank you. Yes.
Abstinence, refraining from intercourse, right? From sex, right?
Yeah, before marriage.
I think everybody should wait until marriage. I think I wish I grew up in a righteous surrounding, where I had grew up like truly understanding the value of waiting till marriage.
Right.
And I grew up with the elders. They would say, wait till your marriage, but I never really understood why. You know what I mean? It was just people telling you, people just saying, wait till you're married, blah blah blah, but why should we wait till marriage? You know what I mean? And it was when I was able to see, how it really affects the relationship, how having, sex before marriage, all that lust and everything before you're actually married to someone, it makes a big difference in the outcome of your marriage, how long it's going to last, how it's going to affect the people around you. It just affects everything. So, just learning how important it is to have 2 people in the household when raising kids compared to having one single parent. I was raised by a single mother myself. And just seeing those different outcomes makes a drastic change. And me personally, I want a wife till death do me part. You know what I mean? I want I want wife and kids, and I don't want to be married for 20, 40 years and then end up getting divorced at 50 or 60. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I don't want none of that. And a good way to ensure that is to, marry someone that you're not sexually active with.
Mm,
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I think that's a huge part because a lot of marriages nowadays, they'll get married, with sex out of wedlock, and they'll be dependent on that lust type of factor, and then it usually ends up ruining the marriage down the road. That's usually like a big part is the fact that the
wow.
sex is like either you got tired of it because you already did it all before you were married, and then just the fact that you're so focused on it anyway. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Sex is originally designed for creation. You know what I mean? It's designed to have babies,
Hmm.
and now we live in a world with condoms and all these contraceptives, all these other things that give it causes people to have a different outlook on sex. So now a lot of people see sex as just this pleasuring thing instead of seeing it as the tool that we use to help create life. You know what I mean? And I was actually having, I know I'm ranting at this point.
No, no, no. I love it. Keep going.
I was actually counseling a married couple like a week ago, the wife. I call it counseling,
I
but
love
giving advice, whatever you want to call it. But I was talking to her, and she was saying that one of the issues that was coming up in her marriage was that she wanted to have more sex. You know what I mean?
it. Hmm.
And then I asked her, I said, what's the issue now with timing, things like that? And I guess they have just different work schedules. So with the different work schedules, the husband, he may want to have sex around this time, but
Mm,
she would prefer to have sex around, this other time of the day. So it was just starting to cause a little confliction and
huh.
frustration in their marriage. And then I asked her, I said, well, who wants to have sex the most? Is it him or is it you? And she said she thinks that it's her.
Hmm.
And which in many cases, from what I've seen, it seems like that's usually the case. Usually it's the
Really?
woman that wants to have sex
Huh.
a little bit more in some relationships compared to like a man who's working hard, like a really hard working man who's busy a lot, who's tired a lot, things like that.
Huh.
But so I told her, I just gave her a different outlook on it. I told her, I said, one, and then I asked her, I said, were y'all having sex out of wedlock before y'all got married? She said, yeah. And I told her, I believe, that's one of the strong reasons of why she even feels the urge to even want to have sex now. Because if you built that relationship without the sex in the beginning, then you shouldn't have the urge like that. Yes, sex is fun, it's great, it feels good, but you shouldn't crave it to the point of it ruining your marriage. Like that's just crazy.
Mm, right.
That's crazy to me. So
Mm-hmm.
so I just gave her a different view on how to look at it. I said, since you guys were having sex before marriage, you started your marriage in hell. You know what I mean? You started your marriage on a foundation of evil. So, now later on down the road in the marriage, you may have to suffer due to those decisions. And that suffering, is what she's going through now, having that frustration about the time, this, that, and the other.
Wow.
And I told her, reiterated the importance of sex and why we're supposed to have it in the first place. If we didn't have all these man-made inventions nowadays, people would limit themselves on how much they have sex. You know what I mean? Because who's trying to have 10, 20 kids? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if you can take care of it in your town or your village or whatever,
Mm,
cool. But most people you just can't afford that many kids. So naturally, on our own, we would withhold ourselves
mhm,
from having sex, or at least ejaculating into a woman and things like that.
mhm.
But yeah, okay, I'm all over the place at this
I
point.
love it.
But yeah,
No, I mean, this is a space for you to share because I feel like who cares about me? Like I feel like it's more common to find women who are abstinent than men who are single who've made that choice, and then to hear the why. And I love that you touched on that because I think our grandparents and older generations do come from like, just be obedient and because I said so. And it sounds like you too, but I'm someone who like wants to learn and I'm curious and I want to know the why. And I think that once we understand the why of almost anything, then we have the right kind of motivation to take action or inaction or to make a choice than just because somebody told us based on like, it could be that you respect that person, you do it because you respect them. You could lose respect for them at some point, and then everything they taught you can go out the window if you don't have your own strong convictions about it, you know?
Right.
I'm loving the comments here, guys. I'm trying to pin them as we're talking. Thank you so much, Lisa, for coming along. You're the best supporter, and I love the energy that you bring. So yeah, a lot of conversation about, you know, treasuring people for their soul and their personality before it gets to the physical part. I've never wanted anyone to look at me sexually. I think I'd rather want you looking at me for my personality. Right. I mean, to me, that's part of respect, especially when you alluded to, you know, sex becoming.
Is that is that a woman who said
Yeah.
that? Can I speak on
Yeah, please.
that?
I'm here to learn from you.
As far as I actually just posted a post a while back, which probably triggered a lot of people, talking about
Yeah.
the wife being a sex object.
Right. That's still kind of rolling around in my head. I liked and I gave you props and I'm like, huh.
So so a lot of people see that, like, obviously when I made that post, I'm not saying that women are just like an object, like a materialistic object, and that they're just used for sex, like a sex toy or something like that. You know what I mean? But you know, you'll see a lot of women who say like, you know, they speak so heavy. They start movements and everything about how men shouldn't see them as sex objects and like we're more than that and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, yeah, there's more that comes with a woman than sex. But one of the biggest roles of a woman and as a wife and a mother is sex. Like that's like the biggest one of the biggest parts that happens of God's creation is we have to have sex. And in order for that baby to be born, the man on average in most cases, the man we have to be sexually attracted to you. You know what I mean? In order to pull off the grand scheme of continuing life, right? So, you know, that's why, you know, men, that's why we're more visual. That's why men, we naturally, we use our eyes and we can see like, oh, I'm more attracted to that woman than I am that woman. So this woman, I want to carry my seed, you know what I mean? And that's where sex comes into play. Like it starts off with that sexual thought of how this woman looks, how her body looks. You know, do I think she can carry my seed? You know what I mean? Do I think she can carry 9 months of my seed? You know what I mean? Do I think she can, you know, give birth to this child and still maintain fitness and health and wealth afterwards? Like it all starts with your physical physique and how you look and that sexual attraction. You know what I mean? So, and I think there's a difference from the sexual attraction and just lusting, just full on lusting, you know, sex versus just being sexually attracted. You know what I mean? Like it's nature for men to be sexually attracted to women because that's how we, you know, hunt you down. That's how we seek you. You know, if it wasn't for that, you know, why would we even have the urge to like want to prey upon you like that? You know what I mean? So it's important. It's important to understand that and not look at it as like a degrading thing. I mean, you should be proud that you came out looking a type of way that a lot of men would want to, you know, put their seed in you. You know what I mean? Like that's an honor. You know what I mean? To a sense, especially, you know, obviously with your husband, the right guy. But yeah.
Justin's giving you props. I love it, Justin. He says this is making a lot of sense. And you touched on what I wanted to get at when you use the word nature is a lot of us are attracted to things that we don't even realize like why, and a lot of it has to do with reproducing. And like the reason we're attracted to maybe like glowing skin is because it shows a sign of health, and you know that means that our seed will be healthy because this person takes care of themselves or they have good genes. Or if we are attracted to a nice smile, oh, we know that there's good hygiene there. And so all these things that we don't really know why we're attracted to them are a lot more practical and nature based than we realize, you know.
Right.
But I do want to say with the comment about, seeing a woman's body or woman as an object, I think the key is, English is my second language and I just happen to love language. And so I really like to know the meaning of words. And if I think I know something because of context, I still want to look it up in the dictionary and know what it means at its raw. And so to me, the term to objectify literally means to see something as an object. So that's the part where I think a lot of women take issue because we do live in a culture where women, if we hear like typical rap music, right, and things that we see on the internet, there is a lot of that going on of just like transactional, disposable sex, right, and just necks and body counts and numbers and what's her name again, what's his name again, and so and in that way it feels like it's disrespectful and it's using people as objects and not seeing them as a person who has feelings and has connection and all that. Which I think, I think everyone watching this, whether they agree with remaining abstinent until marriage or not, they can agree that, people want to exchange anything with people they respect and feel respect from,
Mm-hmm.
I want to read a couple comments that I want to make sure we don't miss. So Bobby was my part 2 last week. You guys can check it out on my IGTV. He says, to me, communication is so important because if there's no talk about boundaries, faith, kids, etc., how am I supposed to plan ahead when I don't have any information to plan with? Dude, you are so right. And I feel like 2020 taught me that so much.
What is he saying?
He said that communication is so important. You got to talk about boundaries, faith, kids. How am I supposed to plan ahead when I don't have information to plan with?
Plan ahead what?
Like his life, his partnership, his family. I'll say, well, this is where I think he's coming from. 2020 for me opened my eyes to so many things. I didn't pay attention to politics and a bunch of other things before then. And I'm like, man, if I, like, I'm so glad I'm single now after 2020, knowing these things and what to know to look for in a person, because political leaning or opinions on medical freedom was probably not at the top of my mind when picking a partner years ago. Those are conversations that I think are super important. Sadly, I know a lot of people right now who are in marriages where they disagree completely, and it's really hard to not have that support when they're trying to make decisions for their kids and their family. Gia says, I've never...
A lot of that comes from lack of submission as well.
Ooh, okay, I want to read the comments. You're going to get into that, please. So Gia says, I've never put that much effort into it because I just became a mother so young. Yeah, I can understand that. Nick says, first I look at your looks, but if you have a personality that I like or the same ideology as me, I don't want it. Huh? But if you have a personality that I like, interesting. I get that. Huh, interesting. You can think I'm pretty, but I don't want you to visualize my name tattooed on your arm. Kevin is making lusting great again. Dude, didn't I tell you we should title it? I'm
not promoting lusting at all.
MAGA gang kick. Making abstinence great again. I fell in love with my husband when we were kids because of his personality and his heart, and I could see inside his soul. Aww. Let me reword that. Nick says, first I look at your looks, then I look at your personality and ideology. If I don't like that, those looks mean nothing to me. There we go. That makes more sense. Don't lust. If you don't got heart, Satan will forgive. Okay, so this is interesting when you said don't lust. Sorry, never like reckless, meaningless sex. I'll lose it with somebody that I actually care and love. That matters more to me than just losing it. I have values. Amen. So when you said don't lust, and I'm learning it's one of those deadly sins or whatever they call it. There's people it's such a big part of culture. If to ask for married people, I'll tell you this. My friend was with an old childhood friend and his new wife, and they were asking her, oh, who would your celebrity hall pass be? Who would you, if you could have any celebrity you could have sex with, who would it be? And she's like, what? A husband and wife are asking her, it's totally normal. Oh yeah, we have ours. What's yours? So if you want to touch on lust, I'm starting to learn. I feel like my faith is more based on my personal relationship with God and the Spirit guiding me. And I don't feel like I'm much of a scriptorian, but I'm trying to dive into the scriptures and get what I can from them. So tell me, you know what it says about lust and the idea of like if you've already lusted for someone in your mind, you've already committed a sin or something like that. If you feel inclined to share on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the scripture verbatim or anything on that, but yeah, you're referring to what is it? If you lust in your mind, you committed adultery, right?
Something
In
like
your
that.
heart, something like that. But yeah, I mean, you shouldn't lust. You know what I mean? It's one of the I would say lust is probably one of the hardest things for most people to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know much to speak on it. It's just
Well,
not a good thing. I mean, you're lusting and you're repetitive. It's one thing to have the thoughts, you know what I mean? But you know, we're called to captivate those thoughts to Christ, right? So it's one thing to, you know, have those images appear. You know, you can't control the images that appear in your brain, but you can control whether if you want to linger on them or not. You know, which is where the lusting comes in.
mm-hmm.
So you know, it doesn't do any good to lust. You know, like I was saying earlier, when you do that before marriage, you build the marriage upon that ideology, and then when you start to lose that, then you want to just throw the whole marriage away.
Mm.
When you shouldn't place something like that as such high value. I mean,
What?
it's just sex.
What would? Whoa! What? See, this
It
is not
sounds
what I.
crazy to say for people who's like really hooked on sex, but
We're talking about making love too. Come on.
that's it's the what's making love? What is that?
Huh? Interesting. For me, it's like it's. I'll say this. So I've mentioned this I've mentioned this in a couple of the talks I had before with somebody else. For me, like, and we're talking about whys and everything. I grew up kind of choosing abstinence because that's what I heard at church and it was the right thing to do. And I'm like, oh, it makes sense. You know, pregnancies, STDs, whatever makes sense. But then I started to realize that for me, I've equated, and so I'll say love making, right? Or sexual intercourse, intimacy. I've equated it to love. Like I can't withdraw love from that act in my head. I know a lot of people can. And so so that's where my why, right, is like if I can't do that with somebody I don't love because I want to be able to tell them I love them in the moment and just like soak up all of it, feel completely you know, safe and vulnerable and him as well and share that experience together. But I will say, like, sharing personal stuff here. So I got married when I was 19 and I was a virgin at the time. Then I went 6 years after my divorce, abstinent. And then I fell in love with a guy, but we weren't married. And so I had a lapse in that and I got pregnant. So I had to kind of rethink my why wasn't enough. Like that why of just love, because then I was here with this guy that I was in love with, but we weren't married, right? So I had to kind of revisit my why and make it stronger, which it is now. But so getting back to, so tell me, I'm curious your thoughts, because you said you kind of laughed at like what's love making, and
Like, so I see like the love that you're referring to, like when it comes to relationships and marriage stuff, my main focus is God's love, the ultimate love, right?
mm-hmm.
You're more so tying in what I consider to be more like a false love, which is the romantic, you know, lovey-dovey, the butterflies in my stomach feeling, you know, all that kind of stuff. I pretty much try to eject all of that
Mm-hmm.
out of the because all of that is emotion related. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I don't even like really bring that in when I'm referring to like love in a relationship. I'm just seeing it as,
Oh.
you know, God's love and what's the most righteous way of doing something, and that's just it, and that's just how I see it.
Mm.
So like for example, like one of my exes, she used to get upset because I would tell her that I love her, you know, and I would tell other women that I love them.
Mm. Right.
You know what I mean? So she would get like real emotional about it. And I'm like, but I do. Like I love Claudia just as I love you.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And then
Ouch.
she'll be like, what? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It throws people off because that emotional tag is in there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it just messes people up,
Mm-hmm.
and they get caught up on that emotional love. And in many cases, that just doesn't go anywhere. If you try to maintain a marriage or a relationship off of that instead of off of God, God's love, God, God is love, love is God,
Right.
then, it always usually ends to destruction to some extent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love having these kind of conversations that challenge the thinking that we all have, or that we kind of assume that everybody aligns with. And yeah, that's beautiful. I was talking to another friend, actually. He's going to be on Thursday night with me talking about this, and he talked about like bringing God into the bedroom and into that act, and I was like, what? Like, I don't know how to compute that. And I think that's, I mean, I think you hit on some of that, but that's interesting. Even just the word love, and then how do you make love? Like, and do you make love? It's just there, and it exists, and it's given to us, and then we get to share
Like
it. And
like a good example would be like, for me, love is, you know, I can be having sex with my wife, and our goal is to have a kid, so I want to ensure that we can get you pregnant.
mm-hmm.
I want to ensure that the baby's going to grow healthy, and that's the main mission there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I see that as love, whereas like some other people can see it as like, we just have to pleasure each other. I got to get you off, you got to get me off,
Mm-hmm.
and we got to both enjoy it, and then if we both enjoy it and it's working out good for both of us, then we love each other. Then we're making love to each other. It's all great. But true love is being able to necessarily not enjoy it. You know what I mean? Necessarily not enjoy it with your wife, but
Huh.
still be happy about it. Like, still be happy afterwards. Now, I'm not like mad at you, like, oh, you're not pleasuring me, and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it is what it is, and we're all still happy about it. Like, that's true love, in my opinion.
I can dig
That's
that.
God.
That's interesting. Cool. I'm gonna go back and watch this to kind of process everything you're saying. This is awesome. Um, okay, so that's interesting. I'm kind of interpreting as like, how Gia and I were talking about making love, and I feel like I always refer to sex as that, and then I think, oh well, maybe there's times with my husband where I'll feel like it's making love, and other times it'll just feel like sex. But I think those definitions are based on what we hear people using in the world. So we kind of equate the term of making love as like you're with somebody who loves you and you trust each other, and then sex is just like having fun with just anybody physically. So it's really interesting. I like that you gave us a different perspective to think about. So you got me thinking. I don't know if I want to ask you this on camera or not. Okay, so if you're, like you said, you're what's the word? You're sharing this with your wife in order to make a baby, and it might not be pleasurable, right? You alluded to that. Like we might not both be happy with the way that it went, but we love each other, and so that's that. But is it? How do I say this? You're not going to be doing that with your wife to make a baby all the time, right?
Well, the primary reason should be for that. But
Right.
like I said, nowadays, we got all this stuff nowadays where you can just have sex without babies coming. So, that kind of sticks on how you view that,
Mm-hmm.
personally, I guess.
Well, I guess I'm asking how you view that, but you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Oh, how I view it?
Because
I mean,
even
me
in my
personally, I enjoy sex, you know what I mean? So I would like to have sex out of pleasure,
right.
within my marriage. But for me, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I wouldn't disown my wife just because she can't, say if it's just not as good. You know what I mean? And that becomes the issue as well, where you have people where you want to test drive the vehicle. You know what I mean? Oh, you got to try it out before you
Mm-hmm.
marry it, lock it out, down, that whole concept.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people wouldn't think that way if they were waiting to marriage. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It would be nothing to compare anything to. You know what I mean? So it makes it harder for people to truly submit and settle with someone because they got all these different types of sex from different people, and feelings and emotions of how each one felt, locked up in their mind. So it's like it's better to not, have that. So I'm kind of rambling. What was the what was the
No, no,
question?
no, I get it. Yeah, I'm just curious, like I'm just curious, like before birth control and all this, I'm
Hmm.
assuming married couples still did it all the time, and did they get pregnant all the time? And I guess so. I don't know. I'm really curious about
But
that.
see, I wouldn't say that they would. I mean, obviously, I wasn't living, hundreds, thousands of years ago. But just based off what we've seen from like history, pictures, things like that, like some of the large families back in the day were up to what, 4 to 8 kids,
Yeah, it was
give
more
or take.
common.
It was more common to have more higher bunches of kids. But even then, it still got to a limit, for a lot of people. I would say a lot of people might limit themselves around 10, 10 kids maybe at the max in that range, give or take. But people limit themselves, whereas as now it's just we could just have sex all day, every day,
Hmm.
with no limitations of anything,
Right,
and not keep bringing kids into this world.
right.
But me, I like to have the control over the lust aspect, and I would like the same for my wife. I wouldn't want my wife, insanely craving sex the same way I don't want to be insanely craving sex, because if we do and we start a relationship like that, then, it's just setting things up for failure. I would rather have a woman who's understanding that, sex isn't everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, we do it here and there, but you know what I'm saying? It's not a life or death type of situation.
Right. So, what is your definition of lust to give people more of insight? And then, should a husband and a wife lust after each other? If they practice lusting too much, are they then lusting about other people when their marriage is on the rocks? What do you think?
Um, I mean, I think that there could be too much lust, in a marriage. Same as I just said
For each other?
before. You said what?
For each other? Too much lust for each other?
Right, right, to for each other. You know what I mean? Because like I said, if one is lusting more than the other,
Mm,
that can cause, hell in the marriage. You know what I mean? If my wife just wants to have sex, every day of the week and I don't, you know what I mean? Then what? You know what I'm saying? It
right.
can it can cause problems. So, um, what else did you say?
Well, and then I feel because one might think that it's healthy to lust after each other, but then I wonder if the practice of lusting when the marriage is on the rocks then changes to somebody maybe outside
Right,
the marriage, right?
right. Because it's a habit. It's a
Right.
problem. It's a situation that person has. You know what I mean? So it's not like you could just turn it on and turn it off, in
Hmm.
my opinion. You know what I mean? Like you have that within you, you're a lusting type of person,
Hmm.
or you've overcame lust and you're not a lusting type of person. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So whether if you're lusting for your husband in the marriage one day, if you're I feel like if you're lusting after him, and if you're around other men, if you go out, if you go to work or wherever you do in life, it's a great chance that you could probably lust over some other guy if you see him and you're physically attracted to him and whatnot.
Right.
Because it's not about the person or necessary, it's just the fact that you lust. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't see it as something you can turn on and turn off, but when you get to a point where it's off and you just don't lust anymore, then I think that's something to maintain. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I really think that's something to maintain. And if you see yourself starting to fall into it, I feel like you should pull back a little bit.
Hmm. So a couple of things in the comments here. Gia says, just because I think someone's cute doesn't mean I want to sleep with them. And yes, that's something that people don't get. Like if you can be attracted to people because of their personality and their light, just like you're attracted to beauty or attracted to food when you're hungry.
Right.
Attraction doesn't mean that you're, want to sleep with them or whatever. So Mike asked, is it lust when you are married though? So that's kind of what you were discussing there. But
Right. Yeah, I see it as lust whether you're married or not married. If you're just craving sex, like if I'm married and I'm at work and all I'm thinking about is nailing my wife like all the time, like that's the issue. Like my mindset should be on things that matter. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Things that actually matter for the sake of the marriage and the kids and our structure and are
wow.
my kids growing up righteously? You know what I mean? Like these should be things on my mind on a more constant basis, handling my role as a husband, as a father, not just thinking about, man, I can't wait till 11 o'clock tonight when my wife wants to
Adidas.
do this because
Yeah.
because eventually I might not be able to get that fix.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like a drug at that point. If you're lusting after this, it's a drug to you. So it's like if I can't say if we married for 6, 10 years, and I'm just so used to every night my wife is providing this treatment that I'm craving for all the time, then all of a sudden she gets injured and she can't do it anymore.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And now that's just gone. I've been doing this for 10 years and now it's just wiped away. And that's going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of relationships. They're going to be like, "Oh, well, you don't pleasure me anymore." It was like, "Well, I was in an accident. Like how I can't do it like how I used to do it." You know what I mean? And
Yep.
and instead of seeing it for what it is, people will be so blind and clouded because they just had this lust all the time. Like I was counseling another one of my other friends. He was talking about getting married to his woman,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked him. I said, I asked them what their sex life was like and all that kind of stuff, and they're sexually active, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him I was like, that's a bad sign. And he had said, oh, I asked him. I said, what if she didn't want it to? I was like, are you guys able to go like at least, a year? Since you guys already started your relationship so sexually active, I'm like, can you guys at least do 6 months to a year with no sex at all before you get married?
After you've been doing it.
Right, after you guys already been having sex, have a relationship, they live in the same apartment together, you know what I mean? But they're not married, but they're planning to get married.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I recommend that you go at least 6 months to a year with no sex of anything, you know what I mean? Just completely, maybe some kissing, you know what I mean? Maybe some kissing, maybe. If you can remove that, even that would be the cherry on the cake for the challenge, right? So just go take all this time and just go solid and just keep your relationship going and just see if any arguments arise, any tension
Wow.
or just see how things unravel. And he was just like he was like hell no, I can't do that. Like no way. And I was like, so what if your woman just stopped, pleasuring you right now? You're telling me you wouldn't want to marry her then? And he was like, no, I definitely would not want to marry her. And I'm just like, I'm
Wow.
like, but that's your answer right there. I mean, if she want to stop right now and you just would not want to marry her because of that of sex, like you're clearly not ready for marriage. Like marriage is way more than that, way bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I love that you said that. I think about that too. Like if I'm attracted to someone and it got to the point where I'm considering like a long-term relationship with him, and I say like, man, whoever I marry is gonna be like the sexiest guy on earth for me, and I hope I'm good for him, right? Like it doesn't have to be for anyone else, or just for me. But then I also think, you're hitting a lot of things that I think about because I'm like, dude, I've been abstinent for years now, and I feel like, man, as soon as I get married, like it's gonna be happening all the time, everywhere, and like, and so you're giving me a lot to think about, and it is,
Right. The reality is that it's not.
and I mean,
You know.
those are things that like you won't know until, so you have to get to a certain like trust and knowing of the person, because those are things you won't know until it happens. Just like you won't know if they read your body a certain way, but communication can fix and improve a lot of things. But I always think about like, can I picture this guy like in a wheelchair and still want to go hard for him? Can I picture him like super skinny, maybe cancer treatment or whatever, and I still want to go hard for him? And the answer has to be yes. Like, it can't just
Right.
be about physical pleasure. I wanted to just I had pin this comment so I don't forget. But so Gia said, I don't even like watching comedy with sex scenes in it. And I wanted to ask you, like, what kind of counsel do you give to like a younger you, or just like, especially I think a lot about young guys who maybe are hearing that this might be a good idea for them to be abstinent, and then what kind of, like, we got to talk about like tactical, you know, things and strategies that people can do, and it all has to do with habits. You know, earlier I talked about people's musical diet. There's people, it's super trendy to pay attention to your food diet, and people get respect for their discipline there and with exercise, but then we can't apply that same discipline to other aspects of our life. And that's where, you know, it's really important to stay close to God and what he's already taught us in the scriptures, and what he continues to give us in personal revelation or teachings that we absorb. So one of the things that I wanted to say, yes, Gia, like, you have to set those standards in everything that you do in life and apply that discipline. So it starts with, I won't listen to music that has this. I won't watch movies that have this. I won't watch shows that have this. I won't go to comedy shows that have this. Because all those things are little seeds being planted that then are fertilized and fertilized by culture right now. Like, it's so hard to get away from this stuff. Like, I'll unfollow this account if they post this. And you have to kind of set those boundaries for yourself, because whether you realize it or not, you're taking all this in.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I actually just had that issue with I couldn't figure out how to get all the Instagram models and all the half naked Instagram models and everything from popping up on my time feed.
Dude.
It was driving me crazy. And then I finally figured it out, you know, because back when I first started photography, you know, I was networking with a lot of different models and different people. So I had a lot of that showing up on my feed in the algorithm because I was in the, you know, photography type world. So, you know, now that I'm not into like shooting models, you know what I mean, like I was when I first started. So now all that stuff is still popping up, and I'm just like, geez, like how do I use my Instagram without seeing a woman twerking and this and that? And then I finally figured out they have the tab you can click, and it says not interested. So when I figured that out, and I started clicking all the not interested on the Explore page and everything. So now it's all clean. I don't have all those women on the Explore page. So that's pretty cool. So now and the same works on Facebook and Instagram. Whenever I see some content that's just like extra that can try to, you know, pull you into that evil realm, I just go ahead and hit not interested and clean up the space.
Yeah.
But,
I encourage everyone to do that, and to think of like your Explore page as kind of like a vision board, almost like visuals that you're just going to be kind of playing in your head and building off of. So look at your Explore page and see what kind of patterns you see there, and maybe start unfollowing certain things and liking other things that you want to have more of in your life. For me, like, my Explore page is like babies and weddings and surfing.
Right. I got more horses now. I got more horses on my Explore page. I'm excited. I get to see all the cool horses and everything. And I'm like, yeah, this is way better. Because now, like, you know, before I found God, I wouldn't mind looking at all the Instagram model stuff, you know what I mean? Because you're lusting after. You just see it and just like, oh, she's bad. Ooh, you know what I mean? But after I found God, now, you know, I see that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, some of the women are still attractive. I'm still attracted to them, but I don't lust after them. So now it's just like, ugh, it's just kind of like, ugh, you know, you get disgusted by it in a sense of looking at it. Thank God for that. That's a gift from God right there, to be disgusted by that.
It's all about mindset and your spirit and feeding that. And just like if you picture food, if you're eating the right things first, you don't have room for the bad things. If you start off with the bad things, you don't have room for the good things. And which one is making it so you're, that you're operating on at your optimal level, and it's the good stuff. So I see now, you know, I'm not much of a scriptorian, but I see now this need of like starting my day with scriptures, and even if I can't follow the stories in the scriptures or the timelines or who's the son of who or what miracle did they do or whatever, or they change their name to something else, I know that the act of reading the scriptures is showing my commitment and my faith to God. And that whether
obedience.
Exactly. And whether I understand the storyline or not, just the act of doing it is going to bring some new understanding and some new beauty into my life in that moment. And I wanted, before I forget, when you talked about lust, and then you hit on a good point where you said, if I'm at work thinking about, getting in the bedroom with my wife, then I'm not thinking about, parenting or providing for my family or whatever else. I heard somebody in like the yoga space, and I'm not, equating it to religious stuff at all, but one of my friends who talks a lot about yoga and energy and all that stuff, he talked about how, if you think about the chakras, and then the chakra that is down in your genital area, it has a lot to do with, there's a lot of like sexual tension that can gather there. And that's why a lot of people feel this release to just like, to just have a partner to have a release with. But he actually said it comes with creativity, or this need to create. So channel that sexual tension into creating something. When you're busy creating your music, photography, videos, art, you're not lusting. You're not like, there's not space for those two. I mean, unless you're doing, the models that you talked about earlier. But I found that for me, that if I'm so busy, like grinding and in my purpose and aligning with what God has put on my heart, there's no time. Like lust, they say, what do they say, that like in an idle mind is Satan's playground or something like that. So if you're just sitting around in the culture that we've built now, where everything should be easy, instant gratification, sit on your butt and have things come at you, have the food delivered to you, have the TV on instantly, and so many things.
Isn't it mind blowing?
Yeah, it's just made. I mean, it's made to have your mind blown out of your.
Like Americans head. Really take it for granted.
Absolutely, but the idea there is to create consumers who just sit and consume and expect everything to be handed to them and not have to work hard. When you're working hard, are you thinking about lust or any of these other things? Probably not. When you're, trying to work at your craft, and you're trying to find your purpose, when you're trying to work on the things that God put on your heart, there's no time. Like when you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs is when all these distractions and temptations enter your mind. And so to me, when we're talking about tactical tips, that's another one, is to focus on the things that align you, that keep you closer to God and your godly powers. If you're a son and daughter of God, then you've inherited these amazing, beautiful gifts. And if you're trying to make the most of those, you don't have time for all those other distractions. And so there's the trick, is just trying to stay on task, every day. And we know that we have all these temptations coming at us. I want to get a couple more messages. For better or for worse. Oh, we're talking about, not just relying on the sexual connection with your spouse. I believe I'm still, okay, sorry, 1 second. We'll probably, Kelvin J, can you answer me, when was the last time you were in a serious relationship? If you want to.
Serious relationship?
Yeah.
Me and my most recent ex, we broke up about January of this year.
Okay. Who won something in the face? I think. Okay, yeah. Getting back to the stuff you're getting on Instagram, it's crazy how even for me, I get these messages to join these chats with with links to like OnlyFans type stuff, or even if I look at my stories now, there's like about 5 to 10 of all these women accounts. Come look at my whatever. Yeah,
I get those too.
I mean, I just was surprised that as a woman who like doesn't look at any of that, they're still coming, And I was actually thinking, like, man, I can't imagine if you're a young guy who's trying to keep this commitment, and then you're getting all these things thrown at you. So maybe if you can share, like you talked about unfollowing and saying you're not interested. Do you have any other tips for men who kind of struggle with that?
I mean, to be honest, if you don't need social media, just don't use it. You know what I mean? Just don't use it. Like I honestly, I'm more introverted than I am extroverted. And I could honestly care less about this whole digital world that we done built and we live in online. It's so annoying. And the only reason I deal with it is because it's tied in with my career, you know what I mean? How I make money as far as video production and music and everything. So I had no choice but to keep getting on here and talking to people and messaging people. But if it was up to me, I'd rather just get rid of all of this and just live life in the real world. But I know one of my family members, they um he had an issue with lust and everything as well.
Hmm.
And he ended up I think he was living out his vehicle for a while, as well as completely removed from social media. So I think he completely like cut himself off from the world in a sense, I guess you could say. And I guess, through that path he was able to, get over all that crap. But like, it's a little easy for him because like he don't have to he doesn't do anything that necessarily puts him in a position to have to be on social media.
Right.
So for people like that, just stay off of it. You know what I mean? It's so much in the real world that you can do and get involved with
Yes.
compared to this whole digital fake realm.
Yeah, I'm totally with
But
you. And I assume we're about the same age, but I remember, and so many times I'm like, man, I want to go back to flip phones, or when you didn't even take a phone with you. And if you ran into somebody, you ran into somebody. And if you weren't around to answer the phone, then you weren't. Like, people
right,
stress so much about that. And I always laugh when people are, get upset or have to feel like they have to apologize for not answering a text. I'm like, dude, the whole point of the technology was you send something when it's convenient for you. I respond when it's convenient for me. Like, we don't need to stress
right,
about it,
right,
right? That's what voice notes.
right,
You don't have to stop talking to the person in front of you to answer a phone call unless it's like life or death,
right,
So
right.
there's technology for that.
And a lot of people, it's that mental thing. You know what I mean? It's just like right now, if I hear that notification bell go off on
Yeah.
my laptop, it's just like, ooh, wait a minute. Like who is it? Who is that?
Feel
And
like
it's like you don't have to stop what you're doing if you're at the gym. Finish your hour workout and then respond. You know what I mean?
yes.
Because if cell phones never existed, guess what? You wouldn't get the message until you got back home anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
nobody gets their
So,
feelings hurt.
and it's funny because I treat my mom the same way. I treat family the same way. My mom is back home, my home state, Michigan,
Hmm.
and I'm currently located in Maryland.
Hmm.
And I treat it the same way as if technology never existed. You know what I mean? I try to treat it as much like that as possible. So, back in the old days, when you leave your parents and you move away, guess what? We don't talk until I come back to the village. You know what I mean? Until I move back to that town and I hike back with my bags and I say, Mom, Dad, y'all still live here? You know what I mean? And then that's when we find it. That's when we figure out if we still alive or not. That's when we find out if we missed each other or
Somebody had a
not.
baby. Yeah.
You know what I mean? We that's when we find out all those things. But nowadays with technology, it's like you move away and you gotta talk to your mom or dad on the phone every day. Like that's not how God designed it. It's just
Wow.
not made that way. You know what I mean? So you have to have that space in between it. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I treat it. So I don't like my mom, she calls a lot. You know what I mean? I don't deal with none of that. You know what I'm saying? I literally answer very, very rarely. You know what I'm saying? And it's not out of disrespect or anything. It's
Right.
just I treat it like reality is.
Hmm.
And the reality is the way God made it is that if we leave town, we leave town. You know what I mean? Like you can't page me, none of that. If you got a bird, you might be able to send me a message. But
Or some
you know what
smoke
I'm saying?
signal.
That's about it. So
That's awesome. I got a text message
So
from
it's nothing.
my mom
It's nothing to
recently.
harp on. Is my point. It's nothing to go crazy over. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's to another point is you teach people how to treat you. Like if I answer, there's times where I intentionally don't answer a text right when I could, because I don't want them to expect me to be that available,
Right. Right.
respect my time. And so you teach people how to treat you. And my mom just texted me as we're doing this live, which, Mom, you should know that I'm going live and be supporting, by the way. But I can sense, and Mom, I love you with all the respect in the world, but I can sense when she's trying to guilt me and like, oh, is everything okay? I haven't heard from you. And I don't apologize. I'm like, yep, everything's fine. But no, I totally rock with you on because I'm coaching people on Instagram now. And there's so many times where I want to toss my phone and just disappear. But I do feel this calling to help kind of coach and guide people into using social media for this right here, for connecting with people that we vibe with, that we can learn from, genuine, authentic connections to help us grow and become better people and to inspire us, not for likes and follows and popularity and fake stuff, you know? And so I do feel like I can make an impact and a difference in that way. And that's why I kind of keep sticking here. If you'll notice on my feed, I've been really intentional about posting a lot of things out in nature. And I'm probably like, in that way, I'm probably the worst social media coach, because I'll tell you, put your phone down and go be outside and go be with the people in front of you. Don't be checking messages all the time. You don't have to like things right when they, you know, send it to you or whatever. And I know
that's the best place when you need that reminder. So I mean, that's pretty good, because
right.
they need that reminder when they're on their phone. So it
Yeah,
works out.
absolutely. I'm hoping that they're scrolling and then they see my videos of the ocean and like, oh yeah, I should get outside. Have I been outside today?
Right.
That's the intention. And I always do like hashtag get outside. Like, this is your reminder. Go outside.
I mean, just imagine, wouldn't that be nice? Like, just the good old days, like
Yeah.
when outside matters. Outside matters.
Oh,
You
I
know,
like that.
like,
Oh, that's
hashtag
good.
outside matters.
Put that on a shirt too. I love that. Yeah,
I mean, the good old days,
I'm so
man.
grateful. So I'm originally from Patagonia, which is the south of South America. I remember like going with my cousins for a bike ride, and like when we were hungry, picking cherries off a tree or peas off, you know, the plants, and an
Hmm.
apple, and going to try to catch bugs, and then I remember
Right.
the men in my family, like the way we ate, which feels like a huge luxury now, but back then I thought like, oh, we're poor, I want to have McDonald's all the time, that's like rich people stuff, which is backwards, right? But at that time, like the men in our family fished, and then we would eat that. Like my grandma would clean it up and we would eat that. She would make bread from scratch. We would help her cook. You know, if I had a stomach ache, she'd go in her garden, give me some mint and put it in a tea for me. And like, man, though, like
You don't even see gardens no more.
right.
You rarely see gardens these days. Like I grew up with little small gardens in my great grandmother's backyard. We used to eat the strawberries, or
Mm.
my great aunt had the little, like a grape berry type of tree in the front.
Wow.
You know, I haven't ate anything off of a tree since I was a kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like normal back then, but nowadays, like I don't even know a bush or a tree I can walk down the street and just grab like a berry or a grape right off the tree out right in the neighborhood. You
Right.
know, you just don't see those, like people aren't planting that type of stuff anymore, unless that's like someone's specific hobby or something, you know. But it's not a normal thing nowadays, which is just whack.
Right. Well, and that's, you know, going back to talking about scriptures and scripture times, like the answers are all in there. You know, people say there's no manual on life or parenting. Yes, there is. And I just learned that people call the Bible basic instructions before leaving Earth. I'm like, I
Yeah,
see that
yeah.
everywhere. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So we have, like, we complain and we think that we don't have the answers. We really do, and have had them for so long. And it's so funny. We're going to wrap this up because I want to respect your time, but I love this conversation. I always think about, you know, I want to learn about how people eat, and I've tried different things. And for a while I thought vegan was the way to go. And I'm like, wait a minute, what do the scriptures say? So I go back and read Genesis. And the thing that stayed with me, not only is do men have dominion over the creatures or the animals of the world, and they were put here for our benefit, and of course,
Hmm.
you know, sparingly and respectfully and all that. But it even said, because this is so funny. I have a friend who's super healthy, and I ask her, like, should I buy this? Is organic really important in this item, and this and that? And so I was like, dude, I just went through the watermelon aisle, and they have organic, seedless watermelon, or seeded, not organic. So follow me here. The scriptures say that he gave us fruit bearing its own seed. So I'm like, whoa, does that mean that seedless grapes and seedless watermelons are GMO, right? They were messed with, because everything's supposed to have a seed.
Yeah, I forgot how. Did you look up how they grow it? I looked into that a while back about how they make the seedless ones.
No, I mean, but they did something to it. It wasn't like just the way God put it there, you know. So
Right.
she and I
If I'm
kind of
not
went down this
mistaken, it's still organic though. It's not
Okay.
like altered with like chemicals or nothing like
Right.
that.
Right.
It's still
Right.
organic. I forgot what it was,
The way
but
they plant,
yeah.
they plant it differently probably, but they're not injecting stuff into it. But that was like, whoa, if I want to follow this trendy diet or this and that, just go back to the Bible, right? It says this, so this is what I'm going to look for, and that's it, keep it simple.
So you believe that it's wrong to eat the seedless ones?
I don't think it's wrong, and I'll still eat it, but it gave me something to think about, because there's this time where we're bombarded with all these different diets and trends and foods, and I know that the scriptures don't talk about chemtrails or other things that were happening to the stuff that was grown, but yeah, it just gave me a lot to think about, and it actually inspired me to start collecting seeds to then learn how to plant them and all that. But just to
That's amazing what you can do with seeds.
Right, and just to
And how you can grow some seeds grow completely different in different seasons. Right. I think that's amazing.
There's so much to learn.
Yeah, I think a lot of people take seeds for granted. You know what I mean? There's so many seeds out here that people don't even care, even think about. But I mean, luckily we have government agencies that actually collect, massive amounts of seeds for like severe situations and stuff. But it'd be nice to see it more normal in the household again, where the household you just got, 20 to 50 different type of seeds of different things. And
I'm
bring
inspired.
back those days.
Maybe we'll do a live gardening session one of these days.
Maybe so.
So for today, we've planted the seed of abstinence. And
That's right.
We're gonna
wait until marriage. Because it'll save you a whole lot of headache.
Yes, we have to say until marriage. We don't want married people to be abstinent. And I mean, in the word abstaining, you can apply to anything, right? Like I abstain from alcohol and drugs and smoking and all these things. And I think just the idea of abstaining from anything can teach you so much. Like recently I've been doing intermittent fasting, and the idea, and we're counseled to fast for faith and religious purposes as well, and for mental struggles and all that, but doing it for food has given me a new appreciation for food and like what my body needs and doesn't need, and how many things we're doing out of habits and culture, and just kind of honing into what my body needs, and then appreciating it more because I've abstained and I've taken it away. And that's how I can kind of equate it to this topic of abstaining from sex until marriage, is how much more beautiful and powerful is it when it's with the person it's meant to be, for these beautiful procreation powers that have, that we've been given by God, and how much more of a beautiful experience is that over this transactional, sex that people are partaking in. And we're not judging, right? Like we've all been there. I don't want to speak for you, but I definitely haven't been perfect at it. And there's always redemption and repentance. And that's actually something that has brought me closer to understanding about the atonement in Christ as well.
Another thing, I had it when you were talking.
Dang it.
I was gonna say another thing is for people who are like, abstinence only matters when you're waiting to marriage. Like people out here doing the whole 30-day rule, 90-day rule, all that kind of stuff, throw that out the window. Because if you're having sex, have sex. You know what I mean? Like don't like, this is mainly towards women because women mostly do this, but if you're dating men or whatever, and you're gonna make one guy wait, 90 days before having sex, or make another guy wait 30 days, or one guy might just get it the first night just because how you feel, all that kind of stuff. Just throw all that out the window. Either you having sex with people you're interested in, or you're waiting till marriage. Because if you're doing the 90-day rule, but you're not waiting until marriage, then it completely defeats the purpose. You having sex 90 days in versus you having sex the same night y'all met, it's really not going to change anything at all. The sex is still going to be the same sex. It's still whatever. So do it if you're actually waiting till marriage. If you're waiting for marriage, be abstinent. But if you're one of those people living on the wild side, just, might as well get it over with the first week or two, whenever y'all feel fit, versus waiting 90 days. It makes no sense.
Gia says, I'd be scared to be dating in this day and age with all the diseases out there. Girl, and then add this stupid jab into it. I mean, it's funny because I'm like, man, it's hard out here for a single person, right? Now, like, there's less of a pool, but then I'm like, no, Heavenly Father's making it more easier, you know, bringing it down and slimming it down for me so I can find that guy faster, right? Like, and if you've had the job, I can rule out thousands of guys in one
Right,
conversation,
right.
right?
But I mean, we rule out a lot, but it gets harder and harder.
Mm-hmm.
Like the closer I've gotten to God, like I just I cannot be with a woman who doesn't want to follow suit of the godly structure of what a wife and a mother is to be.
Right.
And nowadays that's like extremely rare. So it's like the chances of me actually finding a decent good wife is very rare compared to when
Mm,
you're not looking for that specific type and you just got a wider range. So
right.
so it limits it down, but it makes it way harder, way
Right.
more rare.
Well, I mean, harder or easier because, like I said, you feel like you have less selection, but then God is keep making it easier for you, right? Like, look, I ruled out all these people. You only have to find
Right.
one.
It's easier as far as like separating them.
Right.
Like now I don't have to waste my time, talking to this woman for however long.
Right.
When you can one conversation, I voted for Biden, I got my
Yeah.
back, I'm pro BLM, this, that, and the other. And you're just like, oh, okay, well this clearly isn't gonna work. And you can
Right.
just move on to
Well,
the
and it's
next one.
funny the
But
way, in like, if you have to go, tell me, but because I'm enjoying this conversation, I have a little bit of time. But when I was first started doing online dating, and then at that time, my intention was just to go have fun with good company, learn about men, learn about dating, and just have fun. And I also thought, like, once they find out that, like, I love God and I have kids and I'm waiting till marriage, they're not gonna want me anyway. So I'm just gonna enjoy for the moment as like a friendly, outing.
right.
And which actually made it so that I was more myself and less nervous, and then they like wanted me more. But again, like once they knew those things, we weren't, I wasn't hearing from them very much anyway. But I want you to get to, earlier you were talking about, you want to talk about submission. You want to talk about that?
Submission, I think, is massive. I think one of the biggest cause of failed marriages today is due to the wife not submitting. And I think of society and culture have been conditioned over time to think that submission is slavery,
Hmm.
which is
Wow.
like crazy to me because if you actually like, dive into the scripture a little bit on it and see the concept between how a husband and a wife should kind of operate and how the wife should obey and submit to her husband in his leadership,
Hmm.
it's not a slavery at all. You know what I mean? If a man is serving God
Yes.
and
That's the key.
if his wife is serving him, obeying him and everyone's following that line of the order of life, God in Christ, Christ and man, man over woman, woman over children, then you become more free in life. You don't become more of a slave, you become more free.
Hmm.
But nowadays people have been conditioned to think you become more of a slave.
Wow.
And like one of like the married couples I was counseling a couple weeks ago,
Hmm.
and one of their issues was for example, they would get into it about, she believed that, like, say if you're out eating dinner and things like that, and then someone offers and says, hey, get what you want, I'm treating, order what you want, enjoy, it's all on me, right? Now her mindset was, when someone says that, then, you should still be courteous and get something, decent on the menu. You don't have to get the most expensive
Right.
meal. But her husband mindset is, you're offering, so I'm going to order what I want. You know what I mean? Because you just said I can get what I want.
Mm.
And then, that can cause some friction sometime because she may feel awkward or embarrassed or whatever the case may be
Right.
by him doing that. And then I told her, I was like, that's an easy thing to fix because one, it's not harming the relationship, and as him being your husband, if he wants to eat the whole meal, and if the person who offered has a problem with that, then that's their issue in life. You know, they shouldn't be out at the dinner table saying, "Hey, get what you want."
Right.
It's on me if I don't think that okay, these people might order the most expensive thing on the menu. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say that if I can't afford it and if I
Right.
can't do it. You know what I mean? Like, why would I offer it and then hit you with a, oh no 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 no, you can't get that, but you can get this, you can get these over here. Like, you just said I can get anything I want. Like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So obviously I side with her husband on that.
Right.
Like whether regardless of how you feel about it or how you may have been raised, you chose this person to be your husband. You know what I
Right.
mean? No one forced you to marry this guy or anything. And I feel like a lot of women nowadays, they end up getting in relationships with men and taking them on as their husband, as a partner, as like an equal partner, instead of taking them on as a leader. Like, hey, I want you to lead me for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Which is the reality of it, because when you break apart from your parents and you leave your mother and your father and you leave away from your father is your guidance as you're coming up as a young woman, as a young girl, a teenager. But then once you branch off away from them and you get married to your husband, your husband becomes your father. You know what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of people have gotten lost on that concept of how the relationship works, because when you attach onto your husband, he is now your leader. He is now the one who is to guide you, in a righteous way. So, if he wants to order the most expensive thing on a plate, I feel your position as a wife is to embrace how he feels. You know what I mean? Like, to cheer him on, like, babe, you should get that one. That big steak does look good. You know what I mean? Let me know
Good
how
for
you
you.
like it. You know what I mean? Right, good for you. I want to see you eat it all. You know what I mean? And then it's like, and then it's like, it makes him feel happy. He's like, yeah, my woman's down for me, and it's just good energy.
Yes.
But for you to hate on that, which is something that's not even worth hating on,
Right.
like why start a whole argument, get home, we drive home, we're arguing about the restaurant and going back and forth. Why'd you have to order, the biggest thing on the menu? And I'm like, well, honey, they got it. They say we can get it. And so we're arguing about nothing at this point. We're arguing, and then the other couple, the couple that treated, they're at home enjoying their night. You know what I mean? They're at home like, yeah, we had a great night. I paid for everybody. Everyone was happy. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so it's like when the wife tends to not submit in many cases, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
It ends up causing pointless friction. So and then you might end up getting a divorce.
Hmm.
So now the kids are suffering. And you have to look at the bigger picture. And when you look at the bigger picture of the marriage and the importance of the kids and the upbringing of the youth, honey, eat what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like, eat up. Like, it's not that
Okay.
big of a deal over the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And I kind of broke that down to her and explained it to her, so she was able to see it in a different light. And she said it's been helping a lot in her marriage, just understanding what to submit for. Because obviously you don't want, you're to follow your husband unto all righteous things, as well as, just things that's kind of like in that middle ground.
Hmm.
If it's not something that's necessarily just good or evil, it's just a decision, a way to do it. You know what I mean? Then just do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all trying to get to the same place. Another example I gave her was, if we're trying to get to the ball downtown, but you want to go, down L Street and straight on down, which may be like 20 minutes, right? But I want to go down F Street and straight on down, which may be like 30 minutes, right? But in your mind, you know for a fact that it's 10 minutes quicker to go your route,
Hmm.
right? But in my mind, I'm like, no, like, I don't know if it's really quicker or not, but I'm just like, this is the way I want to go. You know what I mean? I just want to go this way. As my wife, it's easier to just let them have it, submit to that. You know what I mean? Just, okay, we'll go that way.
Yeah.
We're still going to get there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm smiling because I remember specific conversations like that with my ex-husband where like I wanted to take like a scenic route and you took something else and I was bummed or and the other thing is, you're touching a lot on women kind of being emasculating to men and not supporting or questioning things that aren't that important. Um,
right.
and that's
It's
something
masculine.
some things that I thought, like when we were driving and we were going somewhere, and I thought like, well, I don't want to tell him like, hey honey, it's that exit, but a lot of the times he would forget, and why didn't you remind me? And so I'm like, well, I don't want to like you to think that I don't trust that you know where you're going, but I also don't want us to end up in the wrong place. But I'll say, you know, in a past relationship I had, I remember my uncle talking to me, and he's like, I feel like you took more, you felt like you needed to be more assertive in that relationship because he wasn't being, and not that you wanted to be, but you know, whatever. I don't want to say too much negative on his, but and it's all up to interpretation. But I remember then talking to my uncle about this next guy that I was dating, the one who said to me, you know, it's God first, and then the husband and wife, and then the children. I'm like, oh my gosh, you sound so hot right now. Just the fact that like I was talking to a man that I was attracted to who had that much conviction about that, because the one I was with previously, I felt like wasn't much of a leader, and he was a great person, and I supported him, and I loved him, and I was willing to go all the way with him. But then, and I remember my uncle saying, I feel like the word that's coming up for me that you need is a patriarch in your family. And I'm like, wow, that's so beautiful, you know, to be with someone. And I think maybe at the time I didn't even know that was possible, not to say anything negative about the men that I had met up to that point, but I grew up, I love my dad and we're close emotionally, but geographically we haven't been. He's in the south of South America for most of my life. And so as you're talking about, you know, the woman having her father and then having him guide her and lead her, I didn't really have that. I had this, you know, strong, independent, single mom who made it through hell and back. And that's what I wanted to kind of model, you know, intuitively. But so I do go back and question, like, I wonder if I would have gone through this heartache if I had my dad and he kind of guided me through, like, oh yeah, all guys say that, or no, he doesn't really mean that.
Right.
But
Like
yeah.
one big thing is that, you know, women are naturally overall more attracted to non-agreeable men, and men are more attracted to agreeable women.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And if you really process that, you know, it's just so true. You know, women prefer a man who's not a yes man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The more a man would kind of, you know, guide you and take that charge,
Yes.
women tend to be more attracted to that. You know what I mean? Over someone who's just like, oh, yes, honey, or yes, honey, oh, sure, we'll do it your way, honey. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
when it
for
gets
sure.
old, you know what I mean? A lot of women would say they want that,
Excuse me.
you know what I mean? But they'll get bored of that eventually, 30, 40, 50 years old, and they'll want to replace him with some guy who's not as agreeable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas men, we want women that's agreeable, because agreeable is more feminine. You know what I'm saying? Non-agreeable is more masculine. You know
Wow.
what I mean? So
Right.
when you come across certain confrontations with women and they continuously want to disagree,
Yes.
it's very masculine. You know what I
Got it.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's not attractive at all. And even if you're right, you know what I mean? Even if you're 100% right in a situation, there's a way to handle that conversation in a feminine manner without coming off as masculine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
One could be just avoiding it, you know what I mean? Like completely removing yourself from the situation, just kind of like, you know, submissively saying, you know, "Oh, okay, well, all right, that's your views, you know," and then just kind of moving on in life.
Mm-hmm.
But to stay there and keep going back and forth, and like, you know, it gets to a very masculine point, which is just not attracted by most men.
Yeah.
It's just nature.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in that kind of relationship before where the beginning was like, whatever you want, I just want to make you happy. Even like, where do you want to go eat? Whatever you want. And I'm like, dude, like I either you're gonna resent me for always doing the things that I want to do, or like I also want someone who has an opinion, and I understand that came from
Right.
a good place, and you know, we were young, and anyway. But so what I was getting at earlier with the idea of the patriarch, and then just like even just meeting men who had these strong convictions about it's God first and then us and then the children, it was new to me. And so now I find myself in that position of being the strong, independent, single mom who now is, and like I said, because of 2020 and this whole talk of like toxic masculinity and just my eyes being open to so many things, I'm starting to pay more attention. I've actually been talking to men, and for instance, I was in a clubhouse room and I'm like, can the guys just tell me like how were you raised to think that your role was like in life? And then I have like a page of notes of like what boys were taught that a man is, and it's like such a new thing to me that I'm excited to learn about. And I have kind of recognized in myself, like, man, I look forward to being with somebody who feels like a leader. And what is that like to like have a man of action in my life? And he leads me because I've been used to being the leader. I'm the oldest in my family. Like, I change the diapers of my little brothers and sisters and discipline them. Like, I've had this role of being in charge for most of my life. But I am attracted to those things that you said. And I think as you were talking, I'm like, that's one of the reasons I'm so attracted to the music that you and those guys were doing when I was at that concert. I'm like, man, like, I haven't really had this in my life. Like, these men who are like, yeah, we're going to protect our families and this is what we stand for and no apologies. And if you want to fight it, then I'm coming after you. I'm like, whoa, this is so cool.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so I mean, you're doing a good thing for multiple reasons in the music and art that you're sharing. But so I've had that talk in my head recently where I'm like, okay, you know, I want to date and I want to have this wonderful relationship. But looking at my life now, am I ready to give up that role? Like, I have had to be the protector and the provider in some ways. I'm not discounting the father that my children have. He has his place in their life and I have mine. But when it's just, you know, my kids and me at my house, I have to assume some of those roles. So anyway, so I thought, am I ready to kind of have someone step in my life and take that over and me let go of that? And at some point the answer was no. And more recently it's yes. And not only is it yes, but I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be such a sigh of relief to just like not have to come up with a plan all the time. And
that's what I think. It's like,
well, just to finish off, I'm also excited to be that for my man, like for him to be excited to have that support that he may not have had in the past. You know, it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like going back on like all what I was saying about being submissive as being like a slave and all that, like tying it in with what you just said, you know, for me it's more freedom. Like I don't understand. Like if I was a woman, I would love the role, like to me the role of a woman is almost it's so, if you do it right and you truly serve God, man, like the role that a wife, I mean, you get to live at home. You get to raise your kids and see them every day. You get to watch them grow up from little babies to 18 years old. You get to watch it and see it in your eyes every day. Whereas the man have to go out and suffer in the world and fight for protection and money and so that we can live. But the wife just gets to stay home with the kids and raise the kids and cook and like man, like come on. And then you get all the fruits handed to you. So all the hard work that your husband's putting in out there, all of that comes back to you. You don't have to worry about, oh, I gotta go work to get a new phone, to get the new iPhone, to get the new laptop. All I gotta do, you don't have to worry about none of that. Yeah, all of that just comes right to you automatically from your husband, who's, you know, out there working hard for the family.
Yeah.
I don't get why women don't embrace that. It's just mind blowing to me that so many, mostly the westernized woman, you'll see it more so, but it's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I really appreciate hearing that perspective, but you know, a lot of women are going to hate on me if I don't give you something back to that. So I have to give you my perspective.
I like them barefoot in the kitchen with an apron on, so it is what it is.
So, well, I'll say that, you know, when I was a little girl, my biggest dreams were two things that I obsessed on, was to be a famous singer and a mom. And like, even as a little girl, I would like sneak into my little cousin's room when he was sleeping, and I would hold him when I wasn't supposed to wake him from his nap. And I would put the doll at the foot of my bed and pray that it would be a real baby when I woke up in the morning, and stuff pillows under my dress and imagine what I would look like with a belly. Like, I was all about that. I still love singing. The fame part is not attractive to me anymore, but I know those are things that are passions of mine and that I'll always keep in my life. But I will say, and so I've had that life of like just having babies at home and not having to work, and it is wonderful. I would never, like, when I got divorced and then had to think of being away from my kids at all, like potentially missing first steps and first words, like it was so crushing to me. But I also was excited to then go get a job and feel get some recognition, feel part of a team, feel valuable and capable, and oh, Claudia's here and we need you and we need your input. And sadly, you know, those are things that I think can be worked out into a role of a mom who's just at home. But sadly, there are, you know, certain things where if you're at home all the time with your kids, if you don't have the right mindset and if you're not working on that, you could easily get consumed into, worrying about what other people are doing, and worrying about, the neighbors next door, and like those little things, the gossipy things, keeping up with the Joneses, all that. You see that a lot with a lot of like stay-at-home moms. But then also not feeling appreciated, because the little ones aren't going to tell you you're doing a great job, but they're definitely going to poop all over you and mess everything up, right? And if you don't have a husband or a good, strong relationship where you're seeing that value, and yes, you get that value from God, but you do need that like on earth hug and recognition. So I think you can absolutely have all that. And sadly, there's moments where a lot of people don't have that. So I just got to give that perspective for people who maybe don't consider that part. And I'll say that now my biggest stress that like makes me ill sometimes is like providing for my family. Like you said, like, oh, to not have to worry about getting this and that. Yes, I look forward to that so much. And no, I'm not wanting to be a kept woman, but I just look forward to, like, without guilt, giving 100% of my nurturing to my children and my husband, and not like, oh man, I have to, like, I've chosen to homeschool now. So I'm like, oh, I have to make time for homeschool. I have to make time to go make money. I have to make time to make them dinner. I have to, and then, if I fail at one of those things, and I feel, where am I lacking? And so it is a lot of plates in the air that I look forward to having, help with at some point. But I do want to clarify, because I've met a lot of divorced women with kids who are like, oh, they're looking forward to a husband who has to take care of them. Yes, I agree with some of that, but my kids right now are the responsibility of their fathers. And I look forward to having a stepdad for them that is a good role model, and wants to also, protect and provide for them, and love on them. But it's not, I bring my kids to the relationship, and I count myself responsible to take care of them,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we could do a whole live on just the idea of submission. Like, that's something that needs to be out in the interwebs a little more. And this whole idea of like independent women and combative women. But there's so much to dissect here, and I really thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, and I thank you so much for your time and your insight and your challenge. I like a challenge of the mind, and having to explore those thoughts. So
I appreciate you having me. I enjoyed our conversation. It's
Awesome.
good talk. A lot of people gotta get on and stuff. Wives gotta submit. Y'all gotta submit. Y'all just gotta submit to godly men, though. Everything I speak on my posts, I'm always referring to godly structures. You know what I mean? That's what I'm basing everything off of, as a decent godly foundation. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions of evil mess everywhere. You don't want to be out here submitting to an evil man who's trying to get you to do evil things. This is all based on a godly structure.
Exactly. Right. And if you can count on your leader to do the right thing, then why wouldn't you count on them?
Right. Why'd you marry him? Like, if it's that hard for you to just trust me, if I'm saying we're going to go this way and we're going to do it this way, I got you. Obviously, I'm doing it for the benefit of myself, my wife, my kid, my family. So just for a woman who sat and said, I want this man to be my husband for the rest of our life, you should be able to easily look at me and be like, okay, let's go. Let's do it. Hey, he said go left, I'm going left. He said go right, I'm going right. You know what I mean? Because why else what did you marry me for?
Right.
Yeah.
It is that simple, because like you said earlier when you were talking about this couple who couldn't go without sex for 6 months, or wouldn't consider marrying that person if that wasn't on the table. You have to rethink your whole foundation.
Right. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Kelvin, for your music, for your spirit, for your friendship, for your support, and for your insight. Definitely, I think a lot of people have been inspired, myself included. And I look forward to doing this again if you're down, because I feel like there's so many topics that we could use your insight on.
That's awesome. I look forward to next time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Hey, do you want to plug really fast anything you have coming up, and then what we're going to be this weekend?
So this October 24th, Sunday, in Scottsdale, Arizona, at Scottsdale Studios, we will be having a live performance in support of freeing Jake, the guy that's been locked up all year since January 6th.
I've been to rallies with him, by the way. Just had to say
That's
that.
awesome. Yeah, I saw you commented a little bit about that. That's awesome. There's a lot of back and forth about him. You know, the whole Arizona side says good things about him.
Mm,
Then you got a lot of random people on the internet says bad things.
right.
I don't know. Based off what I know and what his mother told me, you
Mm,
know, he seems like a decent guy, patriot, and just caught up in, you know, the drama. But
right.
so we got that show coming up. Bryson Gray's gonna be there. Tyson James is gonna be there. Myself. Good music, good positive music, and also stay tuned for the Exile music video, "Persecuted," which should be dropping. I have no clue when, sometime in the next couple
When
months.
he feels like
But
it.
Claudia's and her son is in the video,
Oh my God.
so stay tuned for that. Got some
That's
cameo shots in there, and
Thank you for that.
what else? And I mean, that's pretty much it. Go ahead, follow me, Kelvin J. I am Kelvin J on all platforms and stuff. So
Awesome.
check
Thank
me
you
out.
so much. And if you go to his bio on his Instagram, you can get access to the tickets for Sunday in
That
Scottsdale,
is correct.
which will be awesome. I'm going to go buy my ticket today. And I'm so excited to rock with y'all again. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Kelvin.
All right. Have a blessed one.
Okay. Bye, guys.